comics hashtag who are just sort of like, they're just trying to make their indie book. You know what I mean? They're just like, they're not on Twitter. They don't follow the sort of like the comics discourse. And they also aren't like sort of deeply embedded in the industry. So they're, you know, they don't know any of this stuff. The comics. Oh, I don't need to hear that.
No, I was trying to get it.
It's kind of having to see this mug, but also hear that voice.
No, we don't want that.
All right, here we go. Flip that around.
Oh, I definitely should have asked before we went live, but my AC's on. That's no problem, right?
I can't hear it. How about you,
cool.
Kyle?
No, I can't.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's not too hot, but it's...
I'm sorry, I got neighbors like one street over having like a block party or something.
Oh.
Like a neighbor DJ right now, so I don't think you can hear it.
I mean, you can go join them and see what they think about New Mutants. Do a man on the street interview.
Excuse me, sir, what do you think of the Demon Bear Saga?
I think their house had the Trump flag.
Oh, it's always the house with the Trump flag that is also having the pandemic 60-person party.
Yeah.
Since we're being political, can we just pour a quick one out for RBG?
Yeah.
Swirling in the cosmos. Yeah.
Oh, sick. So...
Oh, you got
Mountain Dew is green.
No, man. I forgot about that.
So, Kyle, how do we do this?
I don't know. We have to... I wonder if mine will.
Yeah, it's just going to be us sitting silently looking for new things in the background.
So, Kyle Overkill, you are the host of Pages and Panels podcast.
One of the hosts.
Oh, co-host of.
I like to view myself as the sidekick. So
the Ed McMahon,
here
right?
to be funny when need be.
Yeah, my Andy Richter. Animal Bursts, breaking tables. That's a show. So that's kind of, I guess, the main show on whatever. It's a weekly interview focus show with creators. We usually have a creator or creative team on to talk about usually a specific issue or kind of run or maybe a collective trade of their work and kind of broad process talk about what went into creating it. And then kind of just like more about the comic itself and then anything related to their career in comics, but usually try to keep it like broadly focused on the process of it. But Tim's my co-host. If you introduce yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Tim Madera, co-host the Pages and Panels. And I like to ask silly questions, mainly about Big Bang Theory.
Well, you've been busy with news lately. I haven't seen like Tim's Twitter is like tweeting about
all the upcoming releases. I'm going to you now instead of the previews page.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the other guys at Comics Pit must have like redone our like social media links. So now when we publish something, it like pushes it out on everyone's Twitter account. And I was like, all right, probably should have been doing that for a while. So it's good.
Oh, they're not even ones you're writing. It's just everybody's.
Yeah.
I was like, Tim's tweeting about like Harley Quinn season 3, which it doesn't.
Oh, I did write that.
You did write that one?
Yeah. The show was good.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We're like halfway through season 2. And it's probably the best thing DC's done.
So
almost more so like I'm like upset that King Shark isn't Ron Funches in the movie. Yeah. I can watch it.
So as a new game, did Tim write this tweet or no? I used to have. Did you guys have friends who were Herbalife I don't know. Are they cultists, converts? Like the Herbalife?
I don't know what that is.
Oh God, I feel like the like 4 years ago was this huge wave that went through Facebook where like all these people were selling, or it's like a multi-level marketing scam.
So is it? Did Tim write this tweet or no?
Right.
But you could always tell when they were writing marketing sponsored tweets because they had no spelling errors. Like it was like perfect diction, periods, commas in place. So that's gonna be my way of telling a Tim tweet from the Ursats.
And who are you, guy talking?
Oh my God! Every day I wake up, I have no idea. Jack Foster. I am sort of a co-host. So under the Pages and Panel universe, cinematic universe. Behind the Patreon paywall, if you scale the wall, slay the dragon, your reward is our weekly podcast, mine and Kyle's, and occasionally Tim when he wants to join in. The greatest comic book of all time that I read this week with Kyle and Tim, or Kyle and Jack, and sometimes Tim. And in it, we go through. It's kind of a sort of loosely. We each take the greatest comic book we read that week and share it with you, the listeners.
I'm trying to find something that'll work.
And it's in an alternating format. Some weeks we do something current so that we can maybe speak about something not 50 years old. And then we pull the opposite week, we'll pull a book from the past that we think you are the valued listener should know about.
Right. And this kind of stems out of that ostensibly. Just as a way to talk more about books, we came up with this, which is a monthly comic book club to talk about a specific book a little more in detail. Again, we do it on the show, but even then, I could talk about. It's really tough every week to even pick a book. Usually, especially the older books, there's like quite a backlog of books I want to talk about. So this was our way of adding more books to the pile to read. Although I was upset that Black Hole didn't win because that's the only one I didn't own, and like any excuse to like buy a new collection, I was like, oh okay, I might do that, but I already own New Mutants.
So should we just go around since? So the book we chose this month, obviously, is the Demon Bear Saga. Most critically, it's like those 3 issues. Is it 19, 20, and 21? Might have that.
It's 18, 19,
19, 20.
18, 19, 20. There was the first, I think, the log-on for Bill Sienkiewicz and kind of a new direction for the New Mutants. And then the trade edition also has a couple extra later issues that return to the Demon Bear, because it kind of like they left it lingering there for a while what it actually was. But so we'll be discussing that. Do you want to just go around and maybe give some first impressions?
Yeah, or maybe we could start with even of our history with it, because again, which is we were talking about before we went live, like it's only ostensibly 3 issues. It's 18, 19, and 20. I think he's teased, and maybe I think it's like issue 3 or something, and then issue 21's the Slumber Party one, which I think is ostensibly an epilogue for Demon Bear. Like it reads like it, but it doesn't always get counted in that. But for like 3 issues, and considering like one of the greatest like X-Men stories of all time, like I always forget it's only 3 issues. So I took forever. I didn't actually read it. My first time reading it was last year.
First time ever reading it?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
I thought it was like, because I bought the New Warriors omnibus like 2 years ago when it came out, and I read it, and then I was like, oh, I want to read New Mutants next, but I'm like, I don't know, I'll get to it when I have time or something. And then I was like, I bought the Epic Collection number 2, which I think is this one, something. And I was like, all right, it's called Demon Bear Saga. I'll sit down and read it. And then there's like 5 issues before you even get to it. And I'm like, where the fuck is Bill Sienkiewicz? Because I think it's Sal Buscema before.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
McLeod started.
McLeod started it, but he handed off, I think, by the teens or 9.
Yeah, and then they brought in Sienkiewicz, and he pretty much does a majority of them after that with rotating teams. But so that was the first time I read it last year, and I was impressed with the majority of it. I think it's, again, for 3 issues, it's, I don't know, it's very Claremont-y, and I guess something we can get into. Like, it feels very by the numbers Claremont, because maybe at this point he's done so many X-Men books, and there's a lot of people getting possessed, and a lot of people fighting out of those possessions with no real end to it. But I mean, that was the first time I read it, and I enjoyed it, and I reread it this year and then for the show a couple times. But I don't know, what was your history with it, Tim?
So yeah, like X-Men were like the thing that got me into comics as a teen. So I read it then, but I was like, oh, like this art is weird and it's not like my other X-Men books. So like it was good, but it was like not what I was looking for. I just wanted like classic fucking Wolverine fighting people. But yeah, I reread it for the first time in maybe 15 years. And it's so good. Yeah. I love Sienkiewicz. About you, Jack?
I did not read it in real time, but I think I was maybe a year or 2 after, because I migrated to Marvel a little. I had mostly read DC and then migrated to Marvel. Same as you, I think X-Men was my gateway drug. No, actually, that's a lie. X-Men was kind of hard to penetrate at the age at which I was trying, which would have been the sort of the Byzantine era after the Dark Phoenix saga and before, like, they go to Australia, when just like nobody, like, the cast is always rotating and no one, like, they're on weird missions. Sometimes they're fighting the Brood, sometimes they're in Asgard. It's just a weird time and hard to like join in, because it's also so rich with like all these side characters who really don't like, and also a lot of humans. There's a lot of non-mutants who are frequently like girlfriends of Scott's, who are taking up a lot of pages. So New Mutants was an easier kind of, because like they were teenagers. Like I was a kid. I was in high school or middle school, I think. They were sort of, and also, you know, it's a great cast. Like Magic, I think any sort of emo kid is going to immediately find a friend in Magic. Warlock's a lot of fun. He isn't here yet. The cast is great, and they're super great. I will say this though, the initial reaction to Sienkiewicz, because the letter column, you know, when you get the individual issues, the letter column, you know, people hated it so much. And I have to say that because I was young and maybe sort of, I was coming from George Perez on the Teen Titans, and that is such a classical sort of art style, to Sienkiewicz, which was like, in addition to sort of just being not what you're used to, he's loose in a way that like well, I don't know if I can live this little boundary, you know, like, you know.
Yeah.
And I was rereading it for this podcast. I was sort of like going back through it, and you have these scenes where like they're in deep space, and like the Magus sort of, this little techno-organic circuitry goes into the page, and then the page becomes the white of the snow, the snow forest that Danny's hunting through, and that, like all that stuff. Which now, like a more sophisticated reader, I'm like, God, I wish all comics were like this. But at the time, it was just like, I need a border. So like I will say, initially I didn't get the Sienkiewicz art, and then like I think a lot of things you start off not liking it, and then you go through this process of like, oh, I don't like this, it makes me feel weird, and then you're like, wait, do I really actually love this? Is that what the problem is? And then by the you know, later on in the run, like I was totally sold on him, and to this day he's my favorite comic book artist.
Yeah, we see that. I mean, a lot of the 80s stuff, I feel like, especially revisiting now, or like for me when I went back to it just last year, like I have to like put myself in that mindset of like what that was to that time, because I read that now and like I'm like, oh, this like that art's not jarring to me, that art's not like out of the woods. But I mean, I imagine then, and like me and Jack have talked extensively about Arkham Asylum, which like back then was like a different style book and was very polarizing, but now is like fairly, I don't want to say run of the mill in the sense that like it's anything less than spectacular, but seeing something like that now wouldn't be. I mean, I think of like Christian Ward, which is like pretty similar and out there, and like seeing painted pages isn't that weird. Where back then, like reading like stuff with Sienkiewicz and the interviews and like column stuff at the time, where it was like either love it or hate it, which I think his stuff is still pretty much like love it or hate it. I think there's a better appreciation of who he is, but I still imagine if he was on a X-Men book now, I don't know if it would be everyone's favorite. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a similar. I mean, other modern artists, I guess. I think of like Ben Templesmith or like Riley Rossmo, who have that looser style to it, in a similar vein to Sienkiewicz, but which you don't see. Well, I guess Rossmo's done some Batman, but you don't really see that style on like the bigger books like you do with Sienkiewicz on this book.
No,
I think
house styles. I think.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, anyone watching, feel free to comment in the comment section and. I mean, it's a book club. You're supposed to weigh in.
Yeah, that's true.
Tell us how good our mustaches are.
Yeah. Can I build on that? Because I had read this a long time ago. Every now and then, periodically,
You on the mustaches or? Jesus.
But looking at the art this time, like he's trying to do a couple things. I think first of all, he's penciling to his own, or he's inking to his own pencil. So like that in itself was kind of like, I think, a novel approach. And they were not. He had to fight hard to, I think, get that kind of freedom. And like you were saying, I think he's moving towards like doing, like later on we'll see him doing pages like this fully painted in like Electra Assassin and his own work, Straight Toasters. But at this point, like the idea of the like one guy doing the pencils and the inks, and it's sort of like it being not formatted the way the comics, like the pipeline that comics go through. I just think that like I think this is sort of like that inflection point when comics like are going to change after this. Like you're going to see more and more artists who are trying to do that and pull that off. And it's like, I don't know, man, looking at that, like, like, where's one of the good ones?
That's the artist edition?
It sure is. Like, look at that.
Don't show me that.
Like, you look at it like...
Kyle can't hide that from his wife. Don't make him want that.
Kyle, you've got a new baby. I think you can get a little for that on the market if you're...
So like, trade artist edition for babies. Hit me up.
I mean, I'm sure Craigslist has a whole like
Oh,
area devoted to like swap a baby for. So yeah, I just think that like the art is sort of like, even looking at it now, as sophisticated as art has gotten, you sort of say like, wow, this is mind-boggling now as it would have been then.
Yeah, like you mentioned about the snow, his use of white space is like I feel like in mainly any other comic, if you see white space, you'd be like, oh, they're just like being lazy and like leaving space blank. But you're like, oh yeah, Danny's just surrounded by snow, so it makes sense, and it kind of just focuses you in and makes you more claustrophobic. Which you would think it would be the opposite because it's so open, but however he does it, yeah, you feel it more.
Yeah, I want to quickly, I guess I had a brief summary for it. This is pulling from Comic Vine. When Mirage, who's Danny, is severely injured after a confrontation with a mystical demon bear, the same creature believed to be responsible for the death of her parents, it's up to her teammates and New Mutants to find a way to thwart the deviant machinations of the sinister entity before it infects the world with its shadow. Meanwhile, Mirage clings to life in the mid-century medical center near Salem, New York, unable to aid her friends in their fight. Which again, like I said, it's 3 issues, and what is kind of impressive in that sense is how much ground the team covers in that. So like issue 1 is ostensibly Danny prepping for this, like her having the visions and nightmares of the demon bear, her training for it, and then going out and confronting the bear. Issue 2, which is my favorite of it, is her going to the hospital and the team accompanying her, and then there is a small fight within the hospital, and then that ends with them being transported to the Badlands with the demon bear, and that's kind of the end of that arc and the culmination of that fight. But like a lot happens in those 3 issues and there's this whole kind of epic battle with the demon bear. There's a exploration into Danny and her past and who she is. There is team building. There's like still the trust issues with Magic and everyone on the team. I mean, that's the best thing about New Mutants, I think, is that it takes the fun teen stuff of X-Men and like rolls that into this like new team of people without kind of the long lingering history of the X-Men that we get. And then you get this kind of epic battle with the demon bear, but I think there's a lot going on. And then it's very Claremont, and he introduces Warlock. Like at one point, I think it's issue 2, he cuts to the Starjammers, like and it's all stuff
his binary is like, insane.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, we have so limited pages. I love seeing Sienkiewicz draw Starjammers, but like, I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, and Rachel Summers, I had forgotten. Rachel Summers makes her. It's big. We meet Rachel Summers. Ilyana starts evidencing her soul armor for the first time. I think Sam starts. We find out that Sam's invulnerable when he's blasting. The team is sort of
that, like every chance they can get.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nye invulnerable. Yeah, so like the team like kind of starts to coalesce. Like stuff that you're going to see later, play out in the series starts to like the thread, and then I think Danny's particular, what do you call it? Like it's her crucible that sort of she is produced out of.
Right. Well, it's so interesting that it is a Danny story, and it is like very focused on kind of Danny's growth, and she becomes with Sam like co-leaders of the team, and I think we see that with Sam in this. But
yeah, Sam's a terrible leader.
Yeah, like almost like 2 full issues. She's in a coma. Like they're able to talk to her, but like for a Danny story, it is very like a lot is happening around it. But I think very much it's how the team is dealing with Danny's story and them coming to kind of again terms with being a team, because that. Like leading up to this, I remember like the issues I've read, like they're not very productive. I think they get beat, or they barely beat the Hellions, and they save Magma. I think is like the previous arc.
Yeah, they're in New Nova Roma. Is that it?
Yeah, but I forgot even because this team it's Cannonball, it is Sunspot, it's Danny Moonstar. Ilyana, Magic, it's Lady Werewolf, Wolfsbane, and then
Arya Stark.
Yeah. Is there someone? Am I missing? Oh, and Magma. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's the team, and then I think
shows up.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. I mean, just going back of the art being kind of jarring a little bit. Back when it was coming out, well, I should say now, like we see previews, like covers are released 3 to 6 months ahead of time. But like, I imagine that covers weren't like announced like they are back then. So like you would first see that Sienkiewicz is coming on as an artist when you first get the issue, and his covers are just, I mean, they're beautiful, but they must have been so different from what people used to.
Yeah, I think in general, I'm trying to. I mean, I think because of he came to New Mutants off of Moon Knight, if I'm not wrong. And in Moon Knight, so like when Sienkiewicz starts, he's kind of a Neil Adams copycat. But then like kind of like, oh man, from like his first issue where you're like, this is kind of like derivative of another artist, but whatever. And then like 7 or 8 issues later, he's doing stuff like he's doing these painted covers, which I don't remember seeing. And then like the interior art is just sort of like it's jazzy and weird. It's insane. So I think, to my recollection, just seeing painted covers was not. You just didn't see that at the time. And I keep thinking of like other books that are on the shelves. Like apart from, I think Epic may or may not have launched at this point, but even some of the Epic books are kind of tame. And apart from like maybe like Swamp Thing, where you've got this weird Bissett art cover, like they're all kind of like comics are. They're inked, penciled and inked, and then maybe the cover art or cover coloring is a little more detailed, because the interiors are all these sort of 4-color, slightly limited processes. And then as far as whether you could see the covers or not, I think if I remember correctly, the direct market doesn't open up until 1986. So around that time is when you first start seeing previews and advanced comics. And prior to that, I just don't think, apart from maybe like sending direct messages, to like mailers or whatever to retailers, you wouldn't have seen it. And then in advanced comics and previews, they're small, black and white, if they even. I don't think every issue, like not like now where you see them back then. Not every comic got a cover. So yeah, just seeing it on the stand, I think like it would have definitely looked different from everything else, but also like so much cooler. Just comparing it. Oh, sorry. Just comparing it to the issue that came before it. Like not to compare artists, unfavorably, but like it's just like this is one book and then suddenly it's another.
Yeah, I think they ran that "Don't Call Them X Babies" ad, which had image art, but I don't know like if that runs in, what that runs in, or if it just runs in the back of comics at that point. But even that, I don't think that gives you a good indication of what you're about to get into. With them. And I will say too, like especially seeing the artist edition and the kind of black and whites they have in the trades, like that in itself is pretty epic. And I'm like trying to parse like how he approached a lot of that, but at the same time, who was doing art colors?
It's Glynis Wein.
Which like that was another thing I kind of had forgotten, that like he wasn't coloring his own stuff, because I mean most people don't then, and a lot of people still don't like. And I think that sells a lot of like the work in this book. Like obviously the black and white's beautiful and kind of what he's doing with like layouts and stuff, but I think a lot of it reads the way it does because of that coloring. Like I don't know, like I knew they did the coloring and I've obviously read it and you can see it in there, but like I don't think that gets like enough of the coverage as well of this. I mean the color palette in this is insane, especially compared to like the previous and later runs. Like there's a lot going on with that to kind of sell Sienkiewicz's stuff, especially because like I don't, maybe you can correct me if this is in the artist edition, but I was trying to find it in the things I was saying, but like the way Magma is colored.
Oh yeah. No, it is.
That's all colorist.
Yeah. Well,
which I think is brilliant.
Hold on, I'll find out.
Also, just a quick aside, Glennis Ween was married to Len Wein, so which I didn't know that.
There's a lot of that. There's like Louise and Walter Simonson, and although I guess family plays together.
There was no internet to like meet people, so weird.
Yeah, like you can see her here. Sorry, not to brag.
Yeah, so there's like no line work in her.
Yeah. Also, those contrasts when there's a bunch of scenes between her and like Sunspot is like all black, and she's usually this sort of like very clean figure. Like just look at that. Look at the sky. Look at the grass. Like sky, man.
Yeah, I wonder what the conversations were like. I was trying to find interviews with him mentioning it because I don't know. Like, obviously, again, the ease of today of email and like cell phones and stuff like that, like having that conversation with your colorist, but like to have to color his stuff and then to do it so efficiently and again improve on, like I could easily see someone ruining Sienkiewicz art, but, like to almost improve on it and make it even better, like is really impressive. So like I don't know what those conversations were like, because like even the famous Badlands splash page, like the skyline is cut through the bear, and like he inks that, so like he inks the dead space in between the bear and the skyline, but essentially they cover in as well, like they color that in. So like I don't know how you would communicate that to get it how you want it, but I don't know, it came out the way it did. And then
we're still talking about it today.
Yeah, and I don't believe this is like one that they've ruined in going back and coloring, at least that I could tell.
No, because I also have the original issues, and it's funny going back to newsprint. Like it's not funny, but like you really like, holy shit! I was looking at garbage. I can't believe this garbage had such an effect on me. It's. No, I'm sorry. Everyone was doing the best they can, but like it's just such a like the coloring is so blurry and like they're doing the best they can with like a very limited printing process. I mean, compare it to like how kind of like even not great printing now is so like photo quality, and I think that's the big change. I think like there was just a period at which color copying wasn't really like it wasn't cost effective. So there at a point at which you could feasibly take a photograph of a for example Sienkiewicz painting, and then have that photograph run as the cover, and it not cost all this money to have it sort of like set up for print. I think that's like when that dam breaks, then suddenly like lots of people are coming in, and you get like people like John J. Muth or Ken Williams or Scott Hampton, people who are like have one foot in the fine art world, in addition to also like liking and drawing comics.
And I think this is easy to do, like talking so much about the art. Like, how do you feel about the actual storyline of it again?
Can we talk about Tom Corsi and Sharon? What's her name?
The cop and the.
I think that a Claremontism is sort of like taking everyday people in the real world. Like he frequently makes people ancillary to the X-Men universe, like the dance teacher, he makes them real developed characters, and I sort of love him for that. But he frequently goes to such bizarre places, and I think this is like he takes this sort of like this cop on the scene who discovers Danny's messed up body, and the nurse who's at the hospital helping her, who are also sort of actively flirting throughout the issue. And then the Demon Bear gets a hold of them, turns them into Native American demons of a sort.
Yeah.
And then at the end, after the Demon Bear is vanquished, spoilers, they're returned to their sort of human state, but now they are Native American.
Yeah.
and remain that way. Like they leave their jobs and join the. I went down a rabbit hole because I was like, I wonder whatever happened to these two, and they have a history. They're in the X universe for a short time.
Right. Which, yeah, I mean, from what I read at the time and even now, like including Danny on the team, so I think originally New Mutants was it Jim Shooter came to Claremont, asked him to do another X book. He didn't want to. Then he said, "We'll get someone to make another X book." And then he said, "Okay, I'll do it." But not using anyone from his current team, he created all these heroes. And then so we get Danny, who is Cheyenne, again, young girl. So like, which is great at the time. And I don't think they lean, for the most part, they don't lean too heavy on tropes with her. I mean, somewhat, but if anything, again, at the time, 84, to have a person of color, a Native American who isn't Warpath or someone walking around with a tomahawk, like is really interesting and unique, and I think is good and continues to be good, although she's been fairly sidelined since then. But so to have that aspect of it, I don't like the Demon Bear, like having them turned into Native Americans. Like I don't think it's meant as like a, oh my god, now they're Native Americans. Like I don't know if he was going somewhere with that or what, but I don't know. Especially because it reads very confusing because you see them, but then you also see Danny's parents return.
Yeah.
So, well, like, originally when I read it, I thought that was them, and then if you continue to read, I was like, okay, like they come out of it with the Demon Bear, and there's also these two which are changed. Which, like you said, I enjoy that Claremont continually has and continues to include people outside the X universe and has them as like part of the regular world. Where again, this is a cop, this is a nurse. There's no like real there's no like anti-mutant activity with them. Like they're very helpful to these guys, and like they're just someone who gets pulled into it and forever changed as Native Americans. So
I want to second that. I think that if you take the time in which it is coming out, I think it's fairly progressive to have a team that includes not just Danny, but Shan, and you can also sort of say Roberto. I think he was trying to be inclusive. Like I think he was consciously trying to be inclusive, and certainly there. Well, I don't know. That's the X-Men does that. Like you've got Ororo, and I think he gets credit for that. And I mean, I think like it's fair to like, I suppose it's fair to like have some criticism about it, but I think overall, I think he should get credit for at least trying and then opening the door for that to be expanded.
Yeah, I think that they're like you said, the turning the white people into Native Americans. That's like a small misstep, but it doesn't detract from the importance of the legacy of the story itself. So.
No, and I think the first issue reads, at least for me, very fairly by the numbers, like X-Men-y adventure. But that second issue is one of my favorite X-Men issues. Like there's so much tension and energy going on. Like there's no breaks in that except for the Starjammers stuff, but even that's interesting. But it feels very claustrophobic, and I think I'm the only one. Yeah, I'm the only one who hasn't seen. Oh, I think Jack died, but so I haven't seen the movie, but that is the closest to a closed door horror thing we've gotten in an X-Men book it's really good. Almost like I'm always depressed that they go. I forget that they go to the Badlands where it's like this big open space with this giant bear. Is Jack there? Did we just lose image of him?
Come on, Jack.
Jack, I was in like. Did you see the Host movie?
No.
Oh yeah. Good. Hope he didn't get attacked by a demon. Summon the bear.
It'd be fitting. But yeah, so I like that kind of up until whatever issues 1 through 17, they're just kind of by the numbers superheroic stuff, and then it's just goes off the rails in a completely different direction. So I like that Claremont. I mean, he's already written a bunch of superhero or a bunch of X-Men titles or issues up to this point, and so he's just trying something different, and like it completely works in like a weird mashup with Sienkiewicz's art.
Yeah. Which even weird. Have you read did you read Slumber Party, like the one after it?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah. It's like they invite like people, like local kids over to have like a slumber party, and then like
Is that at the X Mansion?
yeah. And
Okay.
that's when like Warlock, his dad show up. And that one like reads like an almost like horror type story. Like even the title like font that they use like is like horror font. Let's see if I can find it. I hope we don't have to do anything because I don't know how to do anything on StreamYard.
Yeah, hopefully Jack can just jump back in, but we'll see.
See like.
Oh yeah.
We should ask Liefeld what he thinks.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, there he is.
I thought it was going to go down because I left, but I guess. I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah. We've been keeping people entertained.
But I was asking Tim, have you obviously read Slumber Party? We're talking about how like this arc reads differently, especially the second issue, issue 19. But like even going forward, like Slumber Party, I think is even crazier. Like that issue is like a lot of fun. It's out there in terms of inviting people over for like regular people over for a sleepover, and then Warlock shows up, and that's like very hoary as well. Like they play it off. I think like
hoary,
horror filled. Like there's like that. Was it Cannonball and Sam are like swimming with each other like outside?
All right, I'll cop to it. That those pages got greasy in my copy.
It's an awakening. Okay.
No, you know what? I love that issue. I think that I think more comics it was like allowing them to be the age that they are. Like instead of like it's always like these kids sort of having to act more like adults or trying to sort of like grow beyond what they are, but this is them allowed to be kids. I think the stuff with Rain or Ron, I'm not sure with Wolfsbane, like her sort of like coming out of a like strict religious background and sort of like putting on makeup and being naughty, like this is how can you not be charmed by all that? And then it has this sort of like fun, creepy, like what is the thing lurking, in the shadows. Oh man, no, the Demon Bear Saga is amazing, and I think it's certainly earned its place in the canon. But like you're saying, Slumber Party, I think the book is really hitting its stride. And then the stuff that follows that,
I love that annual. That's not Sienkiewicz, but I think
Lila Cheney.
Yeah.
So good.
But
there's
go ahead.
I just wanted to point out there's a little Easter egg. It's page 5 in issue 19 that Sam is wearing a Terry Austin fan club hat. And I was like, I don't know if that's the letter or the artist, but either way, it's hilarious.
Yeah. And the one it looks like the one guy looks like Hitchcock.
Which guy is that?
Is it like an EMT, I think? Oh, so let me find it. Yeah. Wolfsbane is a character that like I think you have to have an understanding like of her. Yeah, it's issue 2 after the cop sees Wolfsbane. You see like
Oh, right.
that guy looks like I don't know if he's drawing it as a nod to Hitchcock. I'm sure he's not Greg Landing it. I don't think we could do that. She's like fairly annoying reading her, but I think, and I appreciate that she's supposed to read that way. Like, I mean, obviously, again, these are kids, so I think he does a good job of writing them as kids because they're like insufferable at times, which like as a like teenager, I can remember being insufferable and like find teenagers now insufferable. So like the stuff they're dealing with like feels very like teenager focused. Like it doesn't feel like an old man writing teenagers. It feels like genuine communication between teenagers. So much so that Rain is like, oh, like half the time is like, I don't want to hear you complain about shit anymore. But like that's the majority of her character. But I think that's like I think that's a positive in kind of Claremont's ability to invoke like emotion out of characters. I think he's very good at that. So much so he'll write again very much everything they're thinking and saying on the page.
To flip your question back, what do you think of the writing?
What do I think? I think it's good. I don't know. I think it's overwritten in a lot of places, but I think that's very much of the time. I don't always like hold that against writers. Like we've talked about like Kirby, who I love, and like I will go back and read, but you have to like sit and like invest time to go read those because they're very overwritten. And like I think a lot of this could have been pulled off with Siekevich's art, and like I didn't need every emotion written down on the page. I think that was something that was still evolving in comics, and we've gotten to where there's a lot of more visual storytelling. So it feels very overwritten at times, but I think overall, like it's well written. I like the idea of it. And again, to pull it off in 3 issues, I think is impressive. Especially again now, I think that would have been stretched out.
Yeah, it would have been a 12-issue maxi series or something.
Yeah. I mean, this is called the Demon Bear Saga, and again, it's only 3 issues. Like, however many issues of Age of Ultron that came out like years ago, so who the fuck knows? So I think, and he teased it. I think in issue 3, or there's prior issues where the Demon Bear like shows up. She references it. At one point, he shows up in the clouds or something.
Yeah,
and again, he's using Warlock in this like Demon Bear Saga, and he comes back. So I think he's like a master at that. But
well, yeah, like threading a serial narrative with like little seeds of what's going to be in the next series or the thing I would say though, I think I can't speak to the earlier issues because I don't remember them as well. But there's a lot of first person like Danny sort of narrating her own experience. I don't think there was a lot of that. Like, I think in a lot of X books you have those sort of like you're in the person's head and like those little like one word multi boxes, multi captions. But I think as far as just sort of like the narrative is, it's in their head and they're kind of speaking a long monologue that you're reading in sort of tandem with the art. I think that kind of I feel like maybe he's playing with form there because it doesn't seem very typically Claremont-ish. And I also think it results in that sort of like overwrittenness that you're talking about, because it just like that fills a lot of space. That fills a lot of space if you're only going to do that, and then if you're going to do that and then also have scenes with dialogue with like your cast of 10 people, like then suddenly your book is very cramped.
Yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of, just dialogue in general. But I feel like I'd rather have it, condensed into the 3 issues rather than have it be longer. So I don't think it detracts for me.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. I think all fair criticism, but I don't mind. You know, like I think substantially it has aged sort of well and more maybe better than a lot of like rereading the Dark Phoenix saga. Like you're like, oh, whoa, a lot of this is a little overdone. And also with the like some I always forget you're like, oh, it's this sort of this tragic story of Jean Grey, and you're like, oh, and like half the Shi'ar Empire. He does manage to stuff a lot in there.
I always forget that Professor X like eats it in the first page. I love that.
Kyle, did you get a chance to see the movie?
I did not see the movie. I had no.
What, Nazi?
I did not see it. I was trying to get away to see it, and then I even looked at less than desirable ways to watch it, and I couldn't find it. But I
like while your wife was in labor, you could have just been like over at the movies.
It was like 6 hours at least.
Yeah, listen, it crossed my mind, but was not able to. But both of you saw it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and unlike for my other book club, I don't just like watch the movie or do an audiobook instead of reading the actual book. So.
Okay, I'm out on that one. Sorry.
No, I thought
fairly similar, right?
I mean, it's a superhero movie, so I went in with no expectations, which I think is the way to go. That way, it's better than you think it would be. It definitely. Some critics were saying like it's the worst X-Men movie ever. But
that was
like,
bullshit.
There's Last Stand. There's Dark Phoenix. That's
someone with an axe to grind. I mean, yeah. I think it's imperfect, but I thought it was actually a very fun ride.
It was. And
yeah. I think given the long wait for it, I was expecting it to be like howlingly bad. And also the other one, the Jean Grey one was so bad. I was like, oh, yeah, this is just. But I thought actually the cast is great. Like.
Yeah, it was well paced. I liked how it felt claustrophobic because it was pretty much just one set inside the hospital. Yeah, it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. Yeah, and like the first time Magic whips out her sword, you're just like, oh yeah, like I'm all on board with this.
Yeah, Magic is. I'd say like Magic and the Arya Stark are the two like high. I mean, I think the entire cast is great, but I think they stand out. I think Magic is such a fun character; it's hard to not like. Although I think it would be easy for her to eat the whole movie because, like, there's so much stuff with her backstory that you're a little more intrigued than Bear. Yeah. With that, so, yeah, no, I think it was okay. I think not sure, like kind of in name only as far as its sort of relationship to the actual. But as I was watching it, which I saw like I think like a month or so ago, I was thinking like, wait a minute, what is the Demon Bear? Did they ever resolve it? Like, I kind of remember that it's her parents in some way. It was like, how did they like? And so I had up to this point only read the old New Mutants, like the old ones. I had not read any of the additional stories that are in the trade paperback. And so, like, my read for this podcast, that was my first go around with those. And that kind of fills in a few more of because I feel like they left that open. Like, the Demon Bear is this evil force that is doing a lot of harm, but you kind of never understand, like, it never was clear to me, like, from the old ones, what it was, apart from it was somehow using her parents and
when it comes back, right? And I think it does it fight Warpath or
there's two. It comes back and then there's like a second round with it, and then there's an additional Warpath story, which also manages to rope in the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
As you do.
We picked the wrong book.
All right.
Done that. But I think it ends up like I was trying to read as like up on it as well. I think it ends up as like a psychic pet of Psylocke or something. It's like its ultimate. I think it's where it is now or something. I think she defeats it. It inhabits somebody. I don't know. I read. But it is interesting that they haven't burned it to the ground of overuse for something so famous and something they could easily bring back. Like it very much feels like a Shadow King type storyline they could do, and they've used him, numerous times. So something so famous to never really be used, not effectively, but like in a big way again, is interesting. So,
I do think that is the difference between like 1984 and now. Like, I think if you're gonna do a sort of like a story deeply rooted in Native American, like, I don't know if it's folklore or like you have to kind of be a little more like. I think there's a lot of leeway you can give in 1984, and I think now you have to be a little more on your toes about it because you want to do it the right way and not the wrong way. So I can see where people would want to like maybe just not step on a third rail with that.
Yeah, I feel like there's interesting way like because that's something I never really got. Well, if it was a demon created out of I felt like it was created out of the maybe not anger, but the destruction of the Cheyenne and the Native American people.
Yeah.
Like from that, I thought that was like a lot of the rage and stuff like that coming out of it, which again would be, I think, could be an interesting story in itself, like this almost like Wendigo type.
Yeah, totally.
Character where it's kind of raw out of the horrible treatment of Native Americans and kind of coming to terms with that. But yeah, I do think like it's again something. Who knows? I mean, that could be the big bad of House of X. Who knows?
Who is the monster at the bottom of?
Maybe
Krakoa?
it's on Krakoa right now. Just like
so
Kyle, I can just read you this from Wikipedia. They found out that the demon bear is actually the corrupted form of the Apache's animal spirits who had been driven mad by Eli Bard, who used a dagger full of black magic to do so.
I do remember the dagger full of black magic.
Eli Bard, he's like a purifier, right, or something, I think.
Yeah, he's a purifier.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of works as like kind of the white man entity or whatever. But
is this the best New Mutant story?
Is it the only New Mutant? No, it's.
I'd say, like, for my money, Asgardian Wars is kind of like that is the sweet spot for me because it's a kind of the most fun complement of the cast, and whenever you throw in the Asgardians, and it does this sort of like I think the power move, which is you bring in Asgard but you don't bring in Thor.
Yeah, I don't know if I've read anything. I haven't read any of the newer stuff, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that is a good point. He did Sienkiewicz did a Claremont and Sienkiewicz did a release last year. It's sort of like I think out of time. It's not part of. I'm not sure if it's part of regular continuity. It certainly isn't part of House of X. Yeah. Called War Child, I think it was. And it was just sort of like getting the old gang back together. And you had said at the top of the show something about, I wonder what a Sienkiewicz book would look like now. And so it's your window into it. Although
War Children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. War Children. I will say he is out of practice on a monthly book. And I think he can... Look, I think the guy's a genius. I think he's like comics owes a huge debt to him. Like an artist like him comes around once a century. Like he's just an amazing force for and nothing but respect for the man. But I will also say like that it's hard. Now I'm being a dick.
He's too busy drawing Kid Cudi album covers.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just think he's like, you know, like he doesn't have to do the daily grind of a 30-page book anymore, and so he might be a little, I think, you know, maybe just a little out of shape for that.
I'm looking at preview pages of it, and I think this is one where you can kind of see modern coloring on it.
That's the other thing. He's gotten very digital in his later, like he's.
Yeah, that was something I had put down as a note to ask you as like our resident artist. Like looking at this specifically, like his run on New Mutants and even like Moon Knight Prior, is this something like you could effectively recreate digitally? Because like I don't like kind of what he's doing with the sketchy and the heavy inks and stuff like that. Like I don't. That's what like I would like to know if this War Children, what that was done in.
That is War Children is like I think it's a hybrid. I think he. This is my speculation, not. He hasn't said one way or the other, but I think he does drawings in analog style, and then those get migrated in, like scanned in, and then he does a lot of digital processing, which includes coloring over it.
Yeah, it would have to be. These lines aren't.
No, yeah. If you look at his Daredevil covers, he's been doing kind of, or just many of the covers he's been doing in the last 2 or 3 years. Like there's, he's a little behind the curve on digital art. Like he's like maybe like 5 years ago as far as like what people are doing with digital techniques. Like there's a period when like Photoshop introduces all these filters and all these effects and like people are like going crazy with it. But then like over time it gets a little more nuanced and like remember like video box covers where like as soon as they had Photoshop, suddenly everyone had like a hazy like heads were just sort of like had these halos around them and they were just floating in weird space. And then like you're like, okay, we learned how to clip and we know how to sort of like put them in an environment so they're not just pasted and floating. So like the how you sort of digitally process art has kind of gotten more refined, especially as I think digital coloring has gotten more and more more and more people really leading the pack on that. And I think he's not he's in he's a few iterations back on that. And then I think the drawing is still like I think a lot of that is still analog. It's just scanned in and then treated.
Yeah. Well, I know a publisher that'd be willing to pay him to not do digital. Interested in that.
No, I mean I think like this is my not a beef, but like I think Dave McKeon went down this road too, where like initially his painting is so thrilling to look at that when you sort of see his like photo manipulation later with a lot of digital art, you're like, this is cool, but like your painting is so much more exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up because, like, looking at that compared to Demon Bear, like, I don't know if you can effectively. I'm sure you can. Like, I'm sure if you devoted time, you could kind of recreate what he's doing in the like actual like pen and ink. But I don't know if like you could get like Demon Bear art currently digitally. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, and also like I think throughout the Demon Bear, his take on Ilyana is so good. I mean, his take on all the characters is great and defining. But I think like there are certain panels where like she's so beautifully rendered, or many of the characters are just like his Sunspot is such a like just a crazy the blast pattern around Cannonball. All that stuff is so like specific to his style. To see him then doing it and not doing it in that way is also jarring. You know what I mean? Like his Ilyana doesn't look like the Ilyana we know by him.
Yeah. I like his interpretation of like I like that everyone isn't beautiful in a sense. Like
sure,
Sam looks like a redneck.
Sam's rough.
Yeah, Rain looks like just frustrating.
Going back to the New Mutants movie, Kyle, when you see it and then you hear Charlie Heaton's Southern accent for Sam,
Ooh, bad
I was
news.
just like, oh, that was. He tried. He went for it.
He's a little rough. Although if you were annoyed by Wolfsbane in the comic, wait till you get a taste of her in the movie.
I was very. I mean, again, I think she's supposed to come across because, like, I mean, her character is very much like a troubled past, like from a reverend, right? An abusive reverend. I mean, coming into the New Mutants, and then again having to meet and deal with Magic, who is lived with demons. Like, she doesn't trust her, and she calls her demon and witch all the time and stuff. But yeah, I mean,
I'm the Arya Stark does a great job, and I think that kind of character plays better on film than it does. You know, it's she does. You know, like she does a great job with it. But it is that sort of like, oh, come on.
Yeah, they didn't give her that like flat top though for the movie.
Say again.
She doesn't have the flat top in the movie.
Like a half version of it, like the spikier, more fun version of it.
Oh man. No. Do you think it? Well, we've kind of alluded to. Do you think it holds up? You think?
The Demon Bear?
Yeah.
Or wait, which one? Oh, totally. I think I think it. I mean, I think the art is sort of like you like it's kind of a watershed for comics, and you like that's every year that goes by that is more and more affirmed. And then I think as far as the storytelling, I think to be fair, you know, Claremont is doing a lot of books and he's juggling a lot of books, and he's also come off of like a very sort of groundbreaking run on the X-Men. And I think the X-Men sort of defined what was cool in comics for several years. And everybody was sort of like, everybody who wasn't the X-Men was playing catch up. Like other Marvel books were trying to get as good as that. And then certainly DC was trying to get as good as that. And I think as they were like, I think you can say that the Teen Titans, the Wolfman Perez era Teen Titans are kind of the DC version of the X-Men. And I think he takes the ball that Claremont has sort of gotten rolling and takes it into sort of new and interesting directions. I think with a cast of characters, it's also super compelling, and now we kind of love and cherish as much as we love the New Mutants. And so as other companies and then like other writers within Marvel are sort of like hitting high watermarks, like the Simonson Thor stuff is starting to get like amazing. And like Frank Miller is starting to sort of like make real noise with Daredevil. So like as the other writers in Marvel are sort of like upping their game, I think Claremont is like kind of trying to like, I don't know, man. After you do the Dark Phoenix saga, what do you follow that up with? Like it's very like I think a lot of people just did not know comics could even do that at that point. And then after that, you're like, well, I pulled out all the stops for that. Fuck. And so, like, there's this sort of like the slightly weird period for the X-Men where he's, I think, kind of figuring his way out, and then he's additionally to that doing the New Mutants. And I think the New Mutants, once he like kind of at this point, once he sort of like gets a hold on it, and I think it's like X-Men did away with the premise that they're at school very quickly, but like he's like, no, they are students, and I think like he flips it around, and Magneto becomes their instructor after a while, and then like the book kind of takes on this sort of really interesting life of its own. I like Magneto is such a good mentor for Magic, you know, like more so than Professor X can be, and I just think that like I think he's about to get onto like a really solid run on the Mutants, and then come back in. Like I think a little bit after the Paul Smith era, Silvestri comes on, X-Men, you know, Fall of the Mutants happens, and they enter like a new phase for them that's, I think, really great.
Yeah, because sexy Magneto is like a couple issues away, right? I think that's
with his big M.
Yeah, but
the
is that
M
the one where
bodysuit.
he saves the woman? Is that in this arc? And he like takes her to a
Oh, yeah. She's another one. There's all these girlfriends that pop up.
Yeah, that's the Legion, the kind of the Legion arc.
Yeah. He retires from humanity to sort of I don't know, get his shit together. And meets a lady. It's a weird parallel to what's going on with Scott when he Scott post Gene.
Yeah, I just remember him like swimming with his shirt off a lot or something in that arc.
Yeah. There's a bunch of
Sexy
I mean, there's a weird I don't think it's homoeroticism. I think like comics are like it's like going to the beach. You have all these beautiful people who are in super great shape, and they are, in sort of like fetish gear. Like it's hard to not. We lost Tim.
I was wondering if he froze. I was like, either he froze or Tim's having a stroke.
So yeah, it's not that it's homoerotic. I think it's just like it's erotic.
Yeah. Well, Claremont is very much like I think we think of him as the one who brought soap opera to comics. Yeah. Like it is very much that's why I always love like the manliness, like the current, like whether it's like the Red Pill or the Comics Gate, like the masculinity argument that comes to comics again when it is like the most soap opera like driven thing. And I don't mean that as like soap operas are feminine or for women, but like it is very much a like love story all the time. Like even when there's no love story present, this is like love story to humanity or hope or any of that stuff. Like these comics are very cheesy, even when they're like dark, and like he was quintessential in bringing that like large form storytelling to comics. So to have attractive people all the time.
Tim, we lost you.
I'm back.
Did you have to do a costume change?
Yeah.
You took your look from day to night. Kyle was just saying Claremont had brought like the soapiness to comics, and that's kind of what's so weird about the current like keep girls out of my comics, please vibe of the Comics Gators dudes. Like, how can you be so macho about a medium that is so soapy?
Yeah, it's just it's all teenage drama. I mean, at least
Right. Well, I mean, like I see like young adult novels are way closer to like Hunger Games is way closer to comics than anything in like adult fiction. Like it's very much driven. I mean, Saga is, I don't know if Comicsgate is reading Saga, but like that is,
there's too many dicks in that, probably.
Yeah, like that's a CW show. Like that's.
I actually I've been. Did you guys ever hear about?
My Comicsgate hat.
What was the? Somebody called something Hydra. I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I feel bad. I always feel bad wearing it now. I got it like when Captain America, like First Avenger came out. I think my wife got it for me, and it's like one of my favorite hats. But because I love the Hydra, so like it's a cool ass symbol.
Agreed.
But it says like Hydra on the back. I'm pretty sure they're a bunch of Nazis.
No shame in your game.
Yeah. But man, do you have
I think. Say what?
You have a Steranko shirt?
Oh, I do. Isn't this great? It's
just say Steranko.
It's a different Steranko, not Jim.
Yeah. It's fun wearing this anywhere because except the comic convention, because nobody knows Who the fuck he is?
Is that from him? Like, you buy that from him, his company?
Yeah, I went to his Etsy, and
It looks like it's like in Rambo, right?
It's a site. It's a site that I got it at a con. It was like a table, and I think he's connected to it. Maybe it was for Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Back before we knew they were assholes. And it is weird because you wear it like not into a Comic-Con and people are baffled, and then you wear it to a Comic-Con and like people will come up and tell you they're like deeply like, I met Jim Steranko and he talked to me for 20 minutes. It touched me in a way that I've never been touched before by a creative artist.
Not anyone for 12 minutes. Well, yeah, I should get a Bob. I did an interview with Bob Layton at last year's New York Comic-Con. Holy shit, that is like the most like comic brosy old guy in comics. I love a Layton shirt.
Did you read the Steve Howe Marvel book, Secrets of the Marvel Universe?
No.
I read it like 7 years, whenever it first came out.
Yeah, so that's got a lot of like, it's got a lot of like, you know, those guys telling their story. Like, there's bits in there about like Steve Gerber walking around New York, tripping on acid, coming up with stories for was it Adam Warlock? Or I don't know. Like, wow, this is you did your reporting, sir. Hats off.
Yeah, let's like I mean, I wasn't not going to press him on it, but when we talked to Steve Yowell about like kind of that scene at the time, and he was talking about how like you could go, I think like on Sundays they would go to the one like pub and it would just be like all comics.
Oh yeah, you'd see Alan Moore and
Alan Moore and like David's like just hanging out,
eating fish and chips.
Yeah, like I don't know, that would have been interesting.
Could you imagine? I mean, could you imagine?
But it probably wasn't. I mean, that's probably the interesting thing. Like, it was probably like, Super Bowl. It was probably this, and like people who happen to be doing comics.
Brian Boland and Alan Moore are talking about that episode of The Simpsons that had just come out.
With them in it?
Yeah, right.
He's on it. What is it? It's him. Oh, shit. I have to look that up. He's on an episode of Simpsons.
I mean, like, all those guys are comic nerds, so you think that they would all, like, jump at the chance to have their hero.
That's where the, like, Watchmen babies meme comes from.
I also want to say, like, in real time, people hated the ending of Watchmen. Like, it's funny it's not funny, but the way it's so revered now, it's interesting to think that at the time people were a little indifferent to it and then, like, hated it.
Well, they'll change it now, so you don't have to worry about it.
Definitely.
I think they already, well, I guess they technically already did change it. But.
I've been shopping for a replacement copy. I wanted to maybe get, like, if they have an absolute edition or something like that. And every time I go into a shop,
Watchmen?
Go ahead.
Do they have? You said, do they have an absolute edition of Watchmen? Because they have about 50 different copies of. Because they print it all, like they have to keep printing it.
Yeah.
So there's so many copies of like different copies.
Shitty Watchmen.
I don't think I own. Oh, that's Shitty Watchmen. Yeah.
No, it's weird. All they have is Doomsday Clock now.
Better Watchmen, right?
No.
I didn't read it. I just like. That's like one of those ones where I'll just watch that Comics Explained or whatever.
Right.
YouTube channel. I'm not gonna read Doomsday Clock. I'll just have someone tell me.
I did. I was really caught at cross purposes. I hated the existence of the HBO show, but the HBO show was so good. Like it was like I listened to a couple of podcasts for the first couple episodes because I was like, I'm not going to watch it. And then I was like, oh fuck, now I gotta like watch it and not tell anybody.
I haven't watched it.
Not Don Knotts.
Oh, it's. I mean, the thing of it, they could have just done like they could have just said like this is some superhero show and not had any connective tissue to Watchmen. It would have been fine. it's the I don't know. That's a separate book club.
Yeah, next month we should do Before Watchmen book club. Although there's what's the Darwin Cook one is really good.
New Frontier.
Minutemen.
Yeah.
That's like one of the few that isn't like ostensibly like tied to. I mean, it is tied to Watchmen, but it's like him doing something different, and it's Darwin Cook, so like it looks great. But
I have to admit, I was kind of pulled in on the Adam Hughes just because I like Doc Silks. It's sort of Silk Spectre, Doc Manhattan.
Yeah, those are all. Because there's the dot. There's another one that's okay. I don't remember which one it is. I know I saved a few because I bought them all at the time. That's when I was doing like a ongoing like weekly comic podcast. So I bought them all, and they're all really bad. Except I can find.
Oh, it's a doomed adventure. So do we wrapping up? Any parting shots?
It still holds up. Whatever, 25, 30 years later.
Even better.
Yes.
That's even more ironic.
So is next month's book gonna be Snake Eyes?
I think 2 is out by then. Yeah, I bought the Paul Pope cover, but although apparently he's terrible too, so who knows?
Yeah, next month we could do Major X.
Oh, it's funny. I'm washing my hair that day.
Yeah, I think issue 2 is out by then. I think it's solicited for like second week of October. We're not. Like 40 minutes long, and then I have an aneurysm. Wow. I want to reach out to the Hassan, the strip panel naked guy, and I want to do like convince him to do like a guest one with me, just breaking down that fight scene in Snake Eyes #1. This is the most accurate thing ever. But I think my last thought on New Mutants was I thought of this. I had made my notes. I was looking. Is like I love that the first one ends with like Danny, who's like very much like me, like plagued by like her fears and anxiety. Is like I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna fight this bear, and she's like, "All right, I did it." And then you find out the next issue she got mauled almost like to death by this bear. Like she doesn't win at all. Like everything's like hopeless and it's not worth going. Like I took away. I'm like, I'm not gonna go outside and fight my fears. Like I'm mauled to death.
Yeah, lesson learned: stay inside, be scared.
Exactly. I got this like my runny nose today. Like my kids like drag me outside, so I'm like outside, and then like all of a sudden like the next like 8 hours of my day, I'm like sniffling and like runny nose. But I think next month we should do definitely a spooky book.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's October, so we should do a horror themed book.
A spookster. Let me see. Let me pull up old calendar here.
Is there anything? What's going on? And I don't think. Are you guys seeing movies? Like I don't think we were even allowed to. Like I think movie theaters are shut down here. So like
I was like, I didn't know how. I think you can like. I think here they're open, but it's like very limited, and there's like so many seats in between. But like,
yeah,
I don't know how I.
Not going. I went to the drive-in to see New Mutants, and that's like the extent
of same. It was
to go to a movie.
In fact, a friend of mine worked on New Mutants, so I probably wouldn't have gone. But he was like, "Hey, my movie's finally out." So I kind of was like, "All
right, I guess I'll go."
We had it at the Rose Bowl here. That was it was kind of fun. But yeah, like as far as like I was starting to think like I think Wonder Woman is supposed to drop eventually.
Well, it's December now.
They pushed it back. It doesn't make any sense. I just don't know why you would. I mean, I'm not in charge of movies, but like everyone is saying like Tenet made maybe like I want to say
It's like 100 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
First
like
weekend?
yeah, you would think at this point it would be at like $500 million. It should be at $500 million, and it's like struggling at under 200 million. So like if these tentpoles are what are like earning back all the money they've spent, like that just
I
doesn't
totally
make any
forgot
sense.
that like Black Widow movie was supposed to be out. But I mean,
But don't you think the people behind Black Widow movie are like, thank God? I mean, like, please, 3 more months on this.
yeah. Well, especially, yeah, I wonder now. Well, because I don't even know if that's, I don't know if that's solicited, but and then Wonder Woman is Christmas Day, which even that seems weird.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I went for a bike ride today, and like people are out at like getting brunch, and because everything's fine. I didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
The way that the U.S. won the Vietnam War, we just got bored and said it was over.
Yeah.
It's all figured out. We don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we never really went to restaurants to begin with, but like, I haven't like seen the inside of a restaurant in like a year. But I can't imagine going. I see it because we live like the main street of the town I live in. You like turn off, and then there's like the street we're on. So there's a Mexican restaurant, and so they have it set up so like there's a tent outdoors for people to eat. So like, but the servers are wearing masks, but none of the people eating are. So like, it's like it's like the ultimate like fuck you to you server person serving me food. Like
it's insane to me. Also, like I eat out infrequently, but from time to time. So like I would like to do it too, but you just gotta put some stuff on hold.
Yeah, just eat cereal every night. Right.
Especially now, because I don't know if you guys have been to Target, but Count Chocula and Frankenberry are back from their hiatus.
I saw that.
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, so
I bought like fruit.
Yummy Mommy
Arms. Not good. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if we should
wrap. How do we close the show?
Fuck Liefeld. We'll do it. No.
So we'll post. We'll come up with 4 choices and post them for people to pick again.
Yeah, and there'll be spooky books. I was trying to think of some.
Do you guys like Dan Brereton's Night? Because I was gonna make it my pick. That's garbage. That is also garbage. I'll grab it another time. Dan Brereton, I think it's Nightbreed or Night Children. He's like a good spooky vamp without me.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like famous spooky ones, but I don't know. My favorite horror book is the Empty Man. It's that Cullen Bunn and Vanessa Ardell Ray book. But I was trying to think of like what are famous. I'm not reading From Hell. I'll tell you that much. I've read it once. That's as much energy as I have.
Did you read the footnotes?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Although I don't own it, so maybe.
Oh, I just saw another version's coming out. I think
I saw that.
Yeah, I was like, should I get back on board? All right, so we'll pick a spooky book. Spooky. And we'll put those choices up. I'm going to. So, anyone want to sign off? Jack Foster.
What? What are we doing?
That's Kyle Overkill.
And that is Kyle.